spoken to CSIRO divisional heads who say they spend a third of their time working on grants and basically writing stories and...
well, I do that too, but that's what you do as a scientist. I mean, writing grants is demonstrating that you have a plan, and you have to have that anyway. So, to my mind, writing grants merely formalises in paper what I'm doing anyway, and it's not that much more work to write it down a bit of paper. In fact, usually I do it on the paper. It's ready before you write the grant, and somebody else fills all the forms bits out. So I don't do that. The writing papers is, I think if you ask scientists, the thing they dislike most about being scientists is that they've actually got to formalise their conclusions as a paper at some point. I mean, go and present them at a meeting is easy, but then to actually turn it into a paper that will be acceptable to a journal. But if you actually look at why that's hard work, mostly it's hard work because they haven't actually answered all the questions. And I noticed that myself too. It's when you actually have to write a paper that you realise that you haven't done a key experiment yet, or you haven't quite formalised the conclusions that you'd like to come to, or you haven't done it rigorously enough. And there's a bit where you really need to do that by 3 different methods where you've actually only done one at the moment. So, I don't see that as being, in any sense of the word, wasted time. It's an absolutely critical part of being a scientist. And indeed, it's only when students coming through the system realise that that's why they have to do that they actually become scientists. Because otherwise they'll be quite happy to draw a conclusion, say, look, isn't that exciting? And I say, yeah, but suppose this were true or that were true. You haven't shown me this. Why don't you need to go away and test that? And then we could actually write a paper about it, that they realise that this is actually part of the process of peer review. You know, you're testing your ideas against what other people think. It's like being a lawyer. You've got to get up there and test the evidence. And science moves forward to the extent that you have quality evidence. It's very easy to gather bad evidence. I can do that pretty quickly, and so can most people. You know, that's bad evidence gives you your hypothesis. You know, I've got this really interesting result. I worked once, and it suggests something to you. You know, this could be how things work. So you then have to say, okay, well now I've really got to go and test that. And if you're not interested in doing the test that bit, you're not a scientist. You're just playing. So people have to be prepared to put the effort in to get to that level of rigorousness. And yes, if that means writing lots of grants, it's frustrating if you write lots of grants and get no money, and that's understandable. And I mean, I feel for those who are not research productive enough that when they write grants they don't get funding. But there's, you know, at each stage in your career, people should be mentoring you and saying, yeah, look, you're competitive in this area or you're not. And I do that. That's one of my jobs. That's the one administrative job as head of the centre which I take quite seriously, is giving career advice and mentoring. People can take it or leave it as they feel inclined. But, you know, you can tell at the end of a first postdoc whether somebody's got much chance of making a career in science. You know, whether they've got what it takes to produce quality research consistently, given the opportunity. And if they haven't got it, that's the time to tell them, so they can go do something else. Because it's not for everybody. I mean, I've been fortunate in my career. I've been given good mentorship. I suppose at some point I've got the innate ability, and you also have an element of luck will determine whether you get really famous or not. But you can have a very good career in science without doing anything which ever becomes really famous. You know, just a consistent producer of quality results in a particular area will give you a very satisfying career. And you're not going to win a Nobel Prize, but you're going to have a career, and people will value your opinion. You know, you want to be the person that somebody says, if we want an opinion in the area of X, we'll go to them because we know they'll produce reliable information. You know, and that's really what you want as a scientist, is that sort of peer review that's much more important than whether you actually get out there and get into the newspaper headlines.